Hello everyone, Satorn here giving another quick tutorial on Wiki 3, this time regarding interest groups, about clout, political power, and how to get laws passed. My previous video was about interest groups, but how to grow them and control them. That's very important to know how to do. If you don't, I recommend checking out that video as well, but let's get into it. The first thing to discuss when trying to pass new laws in your country is the legitimacy of your government. Depending on how high the legitimacy is, the lower amount of time it's going to take in between to enact new laws. So what impacts our legitimacy? Well, you can hover over it and see right away we're getting a bonus of plus 45 since our head of state, so the Queen, is part of the intelligentsia interest group, and the intelligentsia interest group is also part of our government. In addition, the total clout of our government, so you can see the landowners, 25.5%, and the 7.9%, their clout is added as well to the legitimacy of our government. However, the size of our government is giving us a minus 20. And looking a little bit deeper, you can see the reason why we're getting the plus 45 is because we're a monarchy and an oligarchy. And if we look underneath the laws here, for example, monarchy gives you a decent amount of plus 20 legitimacy. But as we go down for presidential republic, it goes down to plus 15, and down the list a little bit more, plus 10 legitimacy. The same thing for oligarchy. Autocracy would give us actually more legitimacy, and it goes down again as we start to release that power from the government. Another way to increase your legitimacy, but it'll definitely hurt your wallet, is under your budget. You can reduce your taxes. You can see here we'd get a plus 5 legitimacy and a plus 10. So let's try that out and go back and see. And now our legitimacy is up to 71%. Legitimacy is not the only way to reduce your enactment time for your laws. Your authority is another way. If you have a positive balance, for example, here we have 205, we get a minus 12.8% in our enactment time. Which interest groups do you want in your government? Well, ones that are endorsing laws that you want to pass. So for example, you can see it here, the landowners, depending on their ideology, these are all the different laws they endorse and strongly endorse, and the ones that they oppose. What's really interesting is you can't just look at the ideologies of an interest group. You also have to look at the leader of that interest group as well. For example, armed forces. If we click here, we can see their ideology is a traditionalist, and they endorse legal guardianship, and he endorses state religion. We go back to the interest group, there's nothing here about legal guardianship. So let's go back to the laws here and take a look at legal guardianship. And we can see when we hover over it, the endorsement of the armed forces is here, that 17% clout, because the leader of the interest group endorses it, not necessarily the interest group itself. So how do we change our government and add different interest groups in? Well, you can click the Reform Government button down below. But what you need to be careful about is when you remove interest groups from your government, you are going to produce radicals. So you can see here we have 3,000 radicals will happen if we remove the intelligentsia. If we decide to remove the landowners, it'll be even more. It'll be close to 5,000. And our legitimacy goes down, and you can see the changes here. One way to get a free government reform, which will cause no radicals, is through voting. Under distribution of power, if you have one of the laws that allow voting, such as land voting, wealth voting, census suffrage, or universal suffrage, you'll actually have elections in your government. This will show you on your overview screen, and you can see how many days are left for the election. So here we have 5 days left. So we'll let the time kind of tick by here, and then you're going to see we had our election, and now we get a free government reform. So for 181 days, due to the recent election, will not result in any new radicals when we go and change our government. Over time, your interest groups will start to form parties. Here you can see the Bonapartist Party as the Catholic Church and the armed forces. This makes it harder for you to reform your government, because now if we click here and we try to add the Catholic Church, we can't. It's going to be both the Catholic Church and the armed forces because they're part of the same party. So as you can see here, size of government as a big negative to your legitimacy. So this just makes it harder for you to maybe modify the government the way you exactly want. So we talked about reducing the time to enact a law and how to be able to choose to enact a law, but how can we increase the chances of that law actually succeeding? Success for a law to be passed is directly related to the clout or political power of the interest groups that endorse that law. So for example, if we go to oligarchy here, we can see there's a bunch of changes here for distribution of power that we can enact. If we hover over land voting, we can see landowners are providing a 31% chance and the intelligentsia an 8.8% chance. We go down to wealth voting, we can see it's only 8.8 because the intelligentsia are the only ones that are endorsing the wealth and voting law. So let's bring all our learning together by trying to pass a law. So we click on land voting. We can see our 259 days is our enactment time. We can shorten this by the tips that we gave earlier. We can see our success chance is 39.9%. That's due to the landowners and intelligentsia's clout, and they're also part of the government. We have an advanced chance of 60%, so this means we'll have a positive event. We won't necessarily pass the law, but it also won't be negatively impacted. Debating install will have negative impacts. That's usually due to if you have someone strong enough opposing this law to be passed. In our case, the industrialists are marginalized, even though they're unhappy and have a 4% clout. Being marginalized means there's no impact to the law trying to be passed. Also, some interest groups can start a political movement. So you can see here, Enact racial segregation came up and support is low. So we're kind of okay here because the interest groups here don't have a lot of clout. And also the radicalism is low. So the people that are within the interest group is also not very radical. So this is not a big concern, but there's ones that will pop up potentially that you may have to try to enact. By now, you should be seeing how important clout is, or political power, to be able to pass the laws that you want to. So if you click on your interest groups, you can see the clout and the breakdown here, and you can tell population of your interest group is very important, as well as the wealth. So I definitely recommend you watching my previous video of how to control interest groups. Sheer population growth is not enough, though. Make sure you take a look at your modifiers, and you can see the different interest groups and what political strength and percentages they're getting from different laws. For example, landowners are getting a plus 25% from monarchy and plus 10% from local police force. And maybe your opposing parties are getting benefits as well from different groups. So, for example, appointed bureaucrats here is getting a plus 25%. So that is definitely one law you would look to try to remove. You can increase the clout and political power of an interest group using the military through generals and admirals. They can be part of a different interest group other than the armed forces. For example, this one's the petite bourgeoisie. We can click on it. We can see that the general is providing a 10% bonus. If we click back and we decide to promote, again, this is going to cost more bureaucracy. We could promote to general. And when we go back, we're going to be giving an even larger bonus, all the way up to 20%. Interest group leaders can also give clout or political power to that interest group. So you can see here, we have a political operator, which will give plus 5% interest group political strength. If we come back here, you can see it's added to its total. Random events can also happen, which will impact your interest group's approval as well as potentially their political strength. I hope this video helps you get the laws that you need to pass the interest groups out of your government that you don't want anymore. Hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. They're free. And as always,
for the swarm.